Hello and welcome to Taking You to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. I'm your host, JP Jim Posh, with you, man, Power Trip. Of course, joining me is the star of the show, the former WWE World Tag Team Champion, one of the greatest trainers ever in history of the business, the Doctor of Desire himself, Dr. Tom Prichard. Dr. Tom, how you doing today, sir?
John, I'm doing great today. How are you doing today is a question.
Doing very good, very good. Can't complain. I know you're running just a little late, coming out of the school. What's going on in
Well,
the JPWA?
we had a great promo class tonight. We couldn't get away too early, so just got a little tied up and finally made it home.
Nice, nice. Got
Yeah.
to get those promos in.
Yes, you do, John. If you're gonna be any good, you got to get the promos in.
Anybody standing out? Not to give names or anything, but anybody else standing out above some others?
That'd be no.
Oh, okay, all right. Usually there's a diamond in the rough, if you will,
Well,
for promos.
I think the diamond in the rough has yet to be found, but we're
Hmm.
working on it.
Now, as far as the wrestling world's concerned, I know we're pretty sad couple days. Ole Anderson passed away, and then obviously today Virgil passed away. So bad couple days for the wrestling business.
Well, as it will come to all men, death will find its way, and we're all going to go. So, but Ole was always great to me. I worked with Ole a couple times in Atlanta, house shows. Was always great. And when I would see him on the at conventions, a place like that, he would always be great, even though he had to be reminded. And I don't know if he really fully knew who I was or not. So,
Really? So he was big time in you a little bit.
no, he had Alzheimer's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, okay.
there was a
Interesting.
lot of people he didn't know, didn't remember.
Yeah, and you wrestled him a few times down in Atlanta,
Hmm.
early '80s.
Yes, sure did. He was always good. Always
Mitch
cool.
Miller. Good evening,
Good evening, Mitch.
Barbara. Good to see you. Sorry I'm late. Hope you're doing well.
Well, Barbara, I'm late tonight. How about that?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, look who's back. The King of
King of
Kingsport
Kingsport.
himself,
Yes, sir. Bob
OJ.
James.
Yes, he's back. Hello, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Scorch starting it off hot. Ole Anderson that he was never paid his share of a JCP when it was sold to Ted Turner in 1988. Ole said that hiring a lawyer would have cost him more than the share would have been. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that probably that's a possibility that happened, and a possibility that's probably what would have happened. So I can understand his animosity towards WWF at that time. But I heard that WWE did a tribute to Ole. Did they not?
Mhm.
Yeah. So that was nice.
A small one, and they recognized his passing. Yep.
Sure. That was nice. Did everybody come out to the stage?
No, no, it was just on the TV, and the announcers recognized it, and they
Oh,
just
okay.
gave him like a nice glowing word just for a few minutes.
Well, very nice. So I guess they weren't that mad at him.
No, I guess not. JT88. Who would have won in a shoot fight circa 1992? Ole Pigface Anderson or the karate master Eric Bischoff?
I think Ole would have took Eric Bishop. That's just my
Even in
opinion.
92.
Oh, and in '92, yeah, I still think Ole would have took Bischoff. Yeah,
Barbara says, RIP Ole. Was he a salty old man or was that just the gimmick?
I think that was Ole, but once again, he was always nice to me and didn't have to treat me the way he did, but he did, and so I think he was salty at times because just as we all get old and we see new people come in, if we think they're going to kill the business, he probably felt the same way. These guys are going to come in, they're going to kill the business. It's all these young guys' fault.
Yep.
So I think that was he probably felt that at the time, but also I mean, Ole knew. Ole wasn't stupid. He knew talent when he saw it.
ATF, are you surprised by the longevity of the original Four Horsemen, despite them all being punched by the hands of Stone Ronnie Garvin?
Well, might I just say that the Hands of Stone left its mark on each of the original Four Horsemen, and I am not only surprised but shocked at the longevity once they were punched. Each in the, I think they were each punched in the third eye. So,
James Weston, good evening, gentlemen. With a little alien
James,
there. Nice. I like that.
yep,
James says, I heard Vincent, aka Virgil, passed away as well. Yes, at only age of 61. Ole was 81. Virgil was only 61.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, well, once again, I mean, he'd been in bad health, and he passed away in the hospital, right?
Yeah, I guess he had some other issues, like he had strokes, and then he
Yeah.
had some form of dementia, they were saying, or something, and then they were saying he had colon cancer too. He had
Well, that's a lot.
all of
That's a lot going on there. So you never know. I'm just glad he was somewhere where people could at least make sure he was in no pain.
What a shame. Only 61. Barbara
Yeah.
saying Orange said Ole made a lot of money before the Four Horsemen. Did he draw good money in his prime?
Yeah, Ole was the top guy from day one. I think. Big guy. He made a lot of money.
He made a ton of money kind of before the Horsemen for sure. Also as a booker, because when he
Yeah.
worked for Georgia in the early 80s and he was booking for JCP, so he was booking for both companies at the same time and wrestling at the same time.
Right.
So he made a ton of money in the early 80s before the Horsemen.
Yeah. But he was working his ass off.
Yep.
So sure did.
And those guys, the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, were like the big draws of the territory at one point before the Four Horsemen came around.
Yeah. Ole and Gene were tough, man. Great combination.
Jason, R.I.P. Ole Anderson. I hope he is happier in the afterlife than he was in this one.
I think he will be, and I think also, it's we're going to see that because more and more the guys from that era, and I'm talking about the era right before, in the '60s and '70s, that era, those guys are getting up there, and guys like Lawler, Dundee from the Tennessee area, just every time I see them, I wonder how they're doing. So, but it's coming.
By the way, Jason also said, my birthday today. Happy birthday, Jason.
Well, happy birthday, Jason.
Was Ole a good booker? How would you rank him?
Yeah, I think Ole was a good booker. He took Tommy Rich and booked him against Abdullah. And at least that's how the story went, I think, is he booked him against Abdullah. Abdullah massacred him, beat him up and bloodied him up and everything. And then somebody came to his rescue and they had a tag match and Tommy fought back. And yeah, I thought it was a pretty good booker. Very good booker.
Got a little out of sorts in the 90s with WCW. I don't think he did that good of a job. The Black Scorpion comes to mind as just not a good booking idea. Not a good plan.
If you think about it, how long had Ole been booking by that time?
Oh, God. 20 years, maybe? I mean, it was a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. So even
well, less than that, but a lot. Yeah.
Even those guys are allowed to get burnt out. That's probably a burnout moment. So.
Magazine Retriever, good point here. Ole's voice went so well with the Shockmaster appearance.
Yeah, the Shockmaster will never go away for those the real people who want to find out about it. The Shockmaster.
At least Fred turned it around, though, and kind of made it into a joke instead of getting
I was going to say, Ole knew how to have fun with things, too. He wasn't, I don't think he was as gruff as people wanted to paint him as. I mean, he could be, no doubt, but I think at the same time, when you're booking and running that much territory, two places at once, you have to have some kind of edge to you, I think.
With him doing the voice for Shockmaster, he did do the voice of the Black Scorpion at points in time as well. So he was
Well, he's multi-talented. He's versatile. Yeah. Sure. Not only Shockmaster, but Black Scorpion.
JT, where do you rank Ole and Arn as far as amongst the greatest tag teams in the history of our sport?
Well, let me say I got to go with Midnight Rock and Roll. First of all, is right at the top two, but I would say in the top 5 certainly. And then you got Ole or Arn and Tully too, I think. Which but every era there comes another team that seems to do tremendous stuff. So. But I think Ole and Arn definitely rank among the top 5, top 10, definitely.
Interesting. It seemed like the only horseman that Ole actually liked was Arn, it seemed like, as far as all the stories of all these guys tell about those guys.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe Arn only had a special repertoire or connection.
Well, he liked JJ, obviously, too, but I mean, him and Flair seemed to get into it a bunch. He didn't like Tully.
Well, I think at that time everybody was running pretty hot and heavy, and they were the horsemen and they were hot, so they weren't going to listen to a lot of people.
Plus, not a party guy, not a drinker or
right.
Going to party with the boys. He wasn't going to hang out with those guys.
Right. So.
From Mitch, any memories of Virgil you could share with us, Dr. Tom?
Last time I saw Virgil was at a convention. I don't remember where it was, man, but he was doing okay. He seemed cool. My memories of Virgil, just he was a cool guy, laid back, knew how to have rib and have fun, and but all good memories. Nothing in particular, huh?
Did you ever wrestle him?
No.
Oh no. Interesting though, the lonely Virgil stuff, and people were, trying to make a joke out of him at one point that no one ever had lines for him at conventions. He used to book himself at conventions. He'd show up anywhere and sign 8x10s. But towards the end, he was really, the last couple of years, he was actually getting booked and for real and getting paid and making money and having lines and pictures and stuff. So he definitely turned it around a bit in the later years.
Good for him. I'm glad.
ATF says, I actually interviewed Ole in 2015. Wow. And he said he was driving with Garvin, took years off of his life, and Garvin saw a 45-mile-per-hour zone sign as a suggestion to drive only 100. Wow. Interesting.
Well, I think, in 2015, that's not, yeah, he drove with Garvin prior to that, though. I was going to say, that was a different time and place. And
is Ronnie Garvin a speed racer out there?
I don't know. I never drove with Garvin. Never rode with Garvin. Don't know.
Barbara, by the way, says her son's birthday is today, and his name is Tom.
Well, happy birthday, Tom.
I wonder if he's named after Dr. Tom. I have to find that out from Barbara. That would be an interesting.
You know what? I was named after Sean Stasiak's cat in Portland. They named their cat after me. I mean, I wasn't named after the cat.
Right. Yes.
Although maybe my mother got that idea. I don't know.
Yeah. From Stan the Man. Yeah, maybe she knew Stan the Man back in the day. King of Kingsport was Ole the only person to book 2 major territories at the same time, Mid-Atlantic and Georgia in 1982. What do you think?
Wow. I don't know if he was the only one, but maybe he was.
Pretty amazing, and that year, 82, he was probably clearing a pretty good chunk of change.
I would think so, and the Carolinas were crazy.
R.I.P. Virgil from Nick 666 with some devils on there. Thank you, Nick. Ibsen, hello.
Ibsen.
Sorry I'm late.
Yeah, Virgil, I was late too.
It says
Yep.
Virgil was supposed to be with us three at the 80s count. Wow, I didn't know he was booked for that.
Didn't know either.
Wow, damn, what a shame.
Hmm.
From Jason, I love Al Snow's story about attending a tryout with Ole and Gene.
Who was Gene tagging with after Ole?
After, I'm not sure. Before was Lars, but I don't know about after.
Okay, he teamed with somebody, and it wasn't Ole. I don't think it was Ole anyway. Against myself and Joe Lightfoot one time in a house show, and he did the same thing to me that he did to Al Snow, where Gene, I'm talking about,
Yeah.
Gene would feed for the body slams,
Yep.
and just keep feeding and feeding until you blew up. So that's the story I think he's talking about, right?
I believe so. Larry Lane, the old Red Dog Lane, I believe, was because it says you and Lightfoot lose to him in 1983 in South Carolina for Mid Atlantic Championship Wrestling.
Yes, Gene Anderson
Yes.
and Larry Lane.
Yep.
Okay, cool. That's what it was. Yeah, but I just remember Gene kept saying "slam, slam" as he got up. Finally, I think after the fourth one, I nailed him, punched him, said, "Stop this shit."
From Willie Teague, why did Ric Flair and Ole have heat?
I can't. I have no idea. I could only speculate. No, I don't want to speculate. That's for rumors and innuendo.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I knew a guy that said that.
yeah.
Rumor and innuendo. Yeah.
Is
It's
that larceny on our part? Is that Grand Theft Auto or what?
it
I
seemed
said
like
that.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yes,
Oh.
for sure. But it seemed like they had maybe a bit of jealousy because Ole was a star before Flair came around. Then he brings Flair into the territory and kind of has in his head that this is the guy that wanted to be Dusty Rhodes. This guy, you know what I mean? Like I was the top star here. Now this guy's the top star without kind of giving Flair his due. It was, to me, it seemed like a lot of jealousy or a lot of like, this guy can't be a bigger star than me. I'm the king of this territory kind of stuff.
Well, that sounds about right. I mean, you have to have that in your head to believe it and become larger than life and larger than the last guy who's going to be a star, or the next guy who thinks he's going to be a star.
Truth be told, allegedly, do you guys think Virgil will ever go into the Hall of Fame?
Hey, never say never.
You know what, though? Some of the guys that are in there, you look at it, why
Yeah,
couldn't Virgil be in the Hall of Fame? He was a part of WWF for, 10 years,
right,
basically.
right. So why couldn't he?
Part of some big main events, too. Involved, at least. Hogan and Andre. I mean, he was there.
Yeah.
From Phil. Hello, John and Dr. Tom. Just watching on an old Ricky Morton, Ole Anderson shoot, and Dr. Tom appeared. Wow.
Because Ricky was interviewing Ole, and he called me over to ask him because Ole was, I think he was out of his mind or something, and I forget what I said to him, but yeah, we sat down and talked a little bit. So I remember just the first thing I remember he said when we left was, "Oh man, you're so light." I don't know if that was good or bad, but like I said, we always got along. So Ricky called me over and we just talked for a little bit.
Do you want to be light, though? Or do you want to not be light for that?
I
For
don't
the
want to be
workout?
light. You want to be light enough to where you don't hurt your opponent, but solid enough to where they can feel what you're doing. You want to be solid. There's a difference between stiff and solid. And I was worked on the light side, I thought, because I didn't want to hurt anybody and I didn't want to get hurt. So
Did Ole tell a man to punch him in the gut? He broke his hand hiding a weight underneath his shirt. Do you know anything of this story?
I've never heard that story. Have you heard that story?
No. I've heard that he's been stabbed before and
Yeah.
almost stabbed pretty damn badly, but I never heard that story. That's interesting.
No, I never have heard that story.
Speaking of that, Dell is saying in 1976, Ole was attacked by a knife wielding fan. He slashed his arm and his chest, necessitated the reattachment of tendons and a large number of stitches. That probably contributed to Ole's attitude.
Yeah, I think Ole had an attitude that carried over into wrestling. To be honest with you, I think that was just him. And he was all about respect too. You show respect, you give respect, you earn respect, then you get respect. That's how Ole thought.
And he was a hell of a heel to be getting that kind of heat where he's getting stabbed.
Yes, yes. There's some really good heels back then.
Ronaldo Reyes, Virgil, RIP 228 2024.
Yeah, well, we all have to go one day.
I rode with Garvin. It was insane, says Bo James. Are you believing this?
I believe it. I don't think Bill James would like fabricate a story like that when you're talking about the hands of stone.
I wonder if he has any stories just as far as these punching stories that we always hear about Garvin. You know what I mean? ATF is always talking him up with knocking people out and stuff. So I want to hear more from Bo if Bo's ever been knocked out by Ronnie Garvin.
I don't think Bill James been knocked out by Ronnie Garvin.
Dan Davidson, hello there. Truth be told, allegedly, Wilt Chamberlain used to be a speed racer. Oh.
Where did Wilt work? What territory was he in?
I think the Lakers and a few others. Yeah. Phil, Ole made a good choice hiring Dr. Tom as a wrestler and an announcer.
I think that was Jim Barnett thing. That was actually a Ronnie West thing, I think. Because Piper got stabbed and he had to take some time off.
Barbara says, no, I wanted to name him Louis, but my family wouldn't let me. My older brother was Anthony Thomas, so I can name him Tom. They all called him Tommy.
Ah, see, I was never a Tommy. Tommy Rich was a Tommy, but I was not a Tommy. Yeah.
Dr. Tom, your brother just posted a vid. It's a premiere, though, not live. I'm sure it's a clip from his latest video. I wonder what James is referring to here.
Not sure.
What did James? I wonder if it's about Virgil or not. I'd love to know. James, let us know what Brother Love is doing. We need to know. Phil is saying Stan Hansen, and then Barbara is saying, has Dr. Tom had any encounters with Lars Anderson? Heard he was difficult.
Lars was out of the business by the time I got in, or he was in Hawaii by the time I was wrestling. He wasn't traveling, and I wasn't going to Hawaii anytime soon.
Is there a reason he was in Hawaii other than the nice weather and stuff? Like, was it some sort of hiding from somebody, or
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if he was from the island. You don't know where he was from originally. Was he from Minnesota?
I thought he was a Minnesota boy, but I'm not sure.
I'm not either. But maybe he just fell in love with Hawaii.
We seemed like he was kind of up to something.
Yeah.
Didn't he get in trouble a few times? Lars.
Yeah.
Let's see where Lars was born. Yep, Minnesota.
Okay. Well, I didn't know much about Lars, except he did some shows with Peter Maivia's wife.
Yep.
Yeah. So he got some. I guess he got some disagreements with them, and I don't know. He might have just liked the island so much he wanted to stay there. Kevin Von Erich lived there for years.
Oh yeah. Yep. Till recently, yeah. Dan says, I can't believe we lost more Hall of Famers. I can't believe that we lost yesterday. Virgil, Doctor, did you wrestle in the old UWF a long time ago when they were in business? Meaning Mid-South, UWF.
Well, I wrestled in Mid-South and not UWF. So right after Midnight and Rock and Roll had their winding down their angle, that's when we came in.
JT, Ole is always memorable for me as a wrestling fan, seeing as the first match I remember seeing him on TV as a kid was Ole and Flair versus Eddie Roberts and Tim Horner, 87-ish.
Well, I bet it was a good match.
What do you think about Ole as a worker?
He reminded me of a big old grizzly bear who's going to maul you. I thought he was a great worker. He knew how to make a small guy look look good and make him fight back, and he'd sell if you give him enough credible offense. So
very believable.
yeah,
Anything he did, very believable.
yeah, I think so
Mitch
too.
says Ole cut a good promo on Sting, Clash of the Champions, when they kicked him out of the Horsemen. His tone of voice and body language made me believe he truly didn't like him.
Well, at that moment, he probably didn't. You know, guys were notorious at being able to conjure something like that up. So at that moment, Ole probably truly didn't like Sting.
It's one of my favorite Clash of Champions, but my favorite promos or favorite clips is when they turn him, because Sting is in the Horseman. Sting is helping Flair. Flair's the babyface. And then that Clash of Champions, they turn on him. They beat the hell out of him. And Ole says, Flair gave you an out. Just you shouldn't have signed the match to fight Flair. You were one of us, your Horseman, but forget about it. You're out now. And they try to give him an out, and then they beat the hell out of him. Oh, Ole's great in that segment.
Yeah, friggin' asshole.
Love the Anderson brothers. Truth be told, again, he says, who was the best wrestling announcer? He's going with me, my God, Gene.
Well, I think once again that goes with who you grew up with, who you knew, what part of the country you were in, and once it became national or global, whatever. Mean Gene got more airplay than Gordon Soley and Jim Ross, and so I mean, some people love Jim Ross.
Yep.
I thought Jim did a great job as announcing. Um, so I mean, I would have to go with Gordon Soley or Jim Ross, just because it was my time listening to them as I was coming up and heard the way they presented it. But it was in different eras. So wrestling announcers now don't do what they did then.
Ric Flair said in an interview that Ole was the booker for his 1993 return to WCW. Flair claims Ole asked him, "What good are you now?" because he said he'd lost the belt in WWF for his return, and he lost that loser leaves town match to Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig too, and Ole was not happy with him for whatever reason. That obviously you do business on the way out, and Ole didn't like him doing that.
Right. Well, again, I think that goes back to the animosity they had their whole relationship. So, Ole knows it's still Ric Flair. It was the Carolinas, and Flair was over. Ole wasn't stupid, but I think he was just busting his balls.
And hey, there was a little bit of an age gap, obviously, between them, like 6 years, I believe, or so.
Right.
So he kind of elder statesman. He's got a kid who's about to be in college at that point, and hey, much different as far as where he was in his life in the '80s with the Horsemen, where Flair was partying every night and buying the whole town drinks and taking women to Space Mountain.
Right. Right. So, yeah, Ole wasn't into that stuff.
Matthew Holland, hi Johnny P and Dr. Tom Prichard. The Berserker said last year that he went when he fought Virgil and threw him into the ropes while on the side headlock. He screamed because his manhood went down his knee. So I guess Virgil had a big member, if you will, and I guess Berserker had felt that
because his manhood was felt and went down his knee.
So apparently, Bret Hart made a joke about it as well at one point that Virgil had a big, when you saw him in the showers, he had a very big third member, if you will.
Well, I never had that opportunity.
You missed out, apparently. So.
Okay, yeah, I guess I did. I missed that one. So
Virgil had a heck of a breadstick, allegedly.
Allegedly, yes.
Allegedly.
Okay.
Brother Love is the greatest character. I love that character! Exclamation point. You agree with that assessment about Brother Love?
Absolutely.
I love you. Bo James, I took Garvin's punch many times. Punch not so bad. Everything else hurt. He taught me several hooks, stretched me a few times.
See, told you. You wouldn't knock Bob James out.
Bob James is quite a chin then.
Well, look at that chin.
Yeah, true.
Can't knock somebody out right there.
Yeah, with a guy like that, you're not going to be able to knock him out. That's true. Matthew says, R.I.P. Virgil met him at Icons of Wrestling. He was telling me he had beat a lot of people when he was younger.
And he did. He did. Virgil
I
beat a
did
lot of
love that he
people.
was a little bit of a short storyteller. I did love that about him.
Well, he could tell you short stories. He could tell you long stories too if you wanted. Just had to ask him for more. Sure.
But, he always said, like, hey, it was a part of this main event. Technically, he's not lying because he was managing DiBiase. So he technically was a part of the SummerSlam 88 main event. But it's like, was he, and the main event with Hogan versus Andre, where Hogan loses the title, he technically was a part of that 33 million people. So he's not lying per se. He's maybe just a little bit of an exaggeration.
Wait a minute. What do you mean he's not lying per se? He's not lying at all. He was in the main event. I mean, he's
Just
part of
not
it.
just not in the match. Yeah.
Not in the
Yeah.
match.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so what's the point? Well, I think you're making a moot point.
True. Okay. What is it about Minnesota that bred so many top wrestlers?
I think there's something they put in the water.
They had some good trainers up there too. If you think about it, Vern Gagne, Brad Reagans, Eddie Sharkey, they had some good trainers up in that area too.
They do work out in the cold and are under some pretty rugged conditions. So I think that makes people pretty tough. I don't know. It gets below zero up there, doesn't it? In Minnesota?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That makes you pretty tough. And they used to train in Vern Gagne's what's barn. And no air conditioning, no heat.
Yep.
And the wrestlers they show where they're working out in the cold. I would much rather work out in the hot than cold.
And Campatera told me that there was chickens roaming around, so they'd shit all over the place too.
Right.
So he's like, it was just not an ideal situation.
Well, I think it really would break through who wants to be there and who doesn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It would really
big time
make a statement for the people who came through there and wanted to stick around and do it.
Marty said years ago that Virgil was as big as Colonel Rob Parker. Interesting. Tom Parker, obviously, with Elvis, but yeah, Colonel Robert Parker. Interesting.
Yeah.
James says in 18 minutes, something to wrestle with Bruce Prichard. Vern Gagne was the first to expose the wrestling business. Wow.
Wow.
Do you agree with that? I might
I have
disagree.
no idea. I didn't know that. I know Jack Pfeffer exposed the wrestling business. I know
your buddy Eddie Mansfield.
Well, that was after Vern.
Oh, way after. Yeah.
Yeah, but he said Vern was the first to expose. I think Pfeffer might have done it before Vern.
You're going to have to call Bruce immediately before he gets on the air. and let him know. Yeah. Just my opinions from Ibsen. Ole as a wrestler reminds me of Larry the Axe as far as being a brawler.
Yeah, I think Ole was a different kind of brawler, though. I mean, Larry had his ways about him, and I've seen very limited Larry hitting.
Today, Missing Link and Ricky Steamboat's birthdays are today. Ricky Steamboat, 71. Really? Wow.
Yeah. Think about that.
Happy birthday to Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Can't believe 71. Damn. Man.
I think is it Dutch and JBL's and Lawler's birthday too. I think it's that February 28th deal.
Oh, I know they all have similar birthdays. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it might be.
God Gamer, WWA, God Gamer. Good evening. Ole Anderson dying, and now Virgil reminds me of the time when Terry Funk died and Bray Wyatt passed away. Sad stuff. I just watched Virgil versus Yokozuna yesterday as well.
Yeah, but it is getting around that time where it ain't yesterday no more, and that generation is getting up there, man. I'm just wondering what this generation is going to leave.
Yeah, what a shame. All these guys passing away. I believe he's talking about Survivor Series 92, I want to guess. Yokozuna versus Virgil, if I remember that one correctly.
Maybe.
ATF is saying Ole appreciates that he lived long enough to see Vince McMahon exposed and disgraced before the world. Do you think Ole appreciates that?
If Ole even knew. If Ole knew what was going on, yeah, I'm sure he did. But I
He
don't
would
know if,
he'd
yeah.
take pride in that?
I don't really take pride, but he sure would take joy.
Allegedly with Vince, by the way. Allegedly.
Sure. Allegedly.
Ibsen, what's taking so long for the WWE Hall of Fame inductions? How come they haven't mentioned anybody yet?
Uh, the notarized version of what they sent was they had the pink paper mixed up with the yellow.
Are
Yeah.
you in it?
Well, we got to read the green ones to make sure.
Would Stanfield be going along with you into the Hall of Fame? Stanfield Lane.
Well, he had some purple papers that they had to look at, and so he's going to review those as well, and then we'll send them back to our attorneys who will staple them and sort them out to the proper authorities.
Johnny Lavery, R.I.P. Virgil. JT, how many guys used dipping tobacco back in the day?
There's quite a few. I never got into tobacco. I never got into any of that stuff. I'd swallow it.
Oh, Ibsen saying in May, bring all of your books. It will sell out here in New Jersey. Believe me.
Okay, isn't word.
Barbara is asking, does Dr. Tom know how Ole burned bridges with Vince and the WB? Thank you.
Well, I think all he feels or felt that Vince came in and just took it right out from under him. And I think there was a question earlier about Ole not getting his money. So that could have been it. And I think he said made some derogatory remarks about Linda to Vince. And Vince said, "You'll never work in WWF." And he didn't.
And during that whole Black Saturday thing, when the Briscoes and Jim Barnett sold out to Vince and Ole refused, obviously that caused a bit of an issue with them as well. Like, how come you're not selling out?
Right.
The other guys did.
Right. So, I think there were just a lot of circumstances that added up to making sure that wasn't going to be a very good relationship.
And then he created Championship Wrestling from Georgia, and that competed against them. And he actually got better ratings at one point. So yeah, it was like a little bit of a contentious relationship. And he thought Vince at that point was some young punk kid,
Right.
Didn't trust him or like him.
Right. So Ole was old school and felt he was coming in and getting taken.
Between you and Bruce, who do you think would have survived the training camp of Vern Gagne?
Definitely me.
By the way, JBL, Lawler, and Zeb Coulter and Dana Brooks' birthday is all November 29th.
November 29th. That's what it was.
And then Matthew saying Lawler and Zeb are the same day as well. They are cosmic brothers.
Yes. Yes. Same day.
And they had great chemistry. No wonder they had such great chemistry when they feuded. They're born on the same day. Same day, same year.
Yeah. I'm sure it had something to do with it.
Dan wants Bobby Eaton in the Hall of Fame.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. Bobby Eaton does deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, but the Midnight Express should be in the Hall of Fame before anybody else.
Long overdue.
Yeah.
This is a great question and maybe a little bit of philosophical in nature. Dr. Tom, when is your future behind you?
I know this one, but I can't think of it.
I don't know. I don't know. I know it's going to be some smart ass answer, but I love the question. I love the question.
Yeah.
When is your future behind you? We got to wait for that one. What is the worst locker room you've been in? Dirtiest, most rundown?
Oh, hell, there's been too many. I can't remember just one. There's one over here in Maryville I went to not too long ago. It's been long ago. It's been over 5 years, and it was just a shithole. But there have been too many of them.
Many, many, many years ago, a couple decades ago, I got a tour of the ECW before they cleaned it up. I got that one. Man, what a shithole. Holy crap.
I like the ECW arena though. I thought it was
So do I.
awesome.
It's cool and
Yeah,
I like it. It's intimate, but the locker room, oh boy, they did a
yeah,
mess back there.
yeah. But that was intimate to me. That was I'm not worried about the dust and the damp quarters. I'm just worried about I'm, I'm worried about the monsters on the outside that we got to face when we walk out of that thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's like a
Yeah.
safe haven. Then you walk out and the world greets you.
Mike says, Happy hump day, y'all.
Happy Hump Day.
Has Dr. Tom ever had the great privilege of wrestling in chicken shit?
Well, no, not actually.
Just Ken Patera and Ric Flair have. We know that. Thanks to
They
Vern.
wrestled in chicken shit.
Yeah,
Oh
thanks to
yeah,
Vern. Yeah, because they
yeah.
wrestled in the barn. He never cleaned it. Yeah.
No, we never wrestled in chicken shit.
What was Corny's opinion of Virgil?
I don't know. Virgil wasn't a bad guy, so I don't see Jim having any problem with Virgil. I could see them getting along.
As far as Ole's concerned, I know people always said this. I know Teddy Long has recently said this, talking about how he was so racist and he's so
Mm.
mean and he's such a bully. Have you ever heard or seen any of that type of behavior from Ole?
Well, I heard from Teddy, but I never saw it myself. I never witnessed it or experienced it myself.
My only problem with that is his best friend who was black. So how racist could you be if your best friend Thunderbolt Patterson is black?
Yeah.
Right? I
Well,
mean, kind of
was him and
interesting.
was him and Thunderbolt still friends?
Yeah, there was a picture of them. Not that old. There was very recently somebody posted it of them. It's very very old age. It had to be a year ago or so. They were
Mm.
together hanging out.
Yeah. Well, I just recently watched the T-Bolt David Schultz Morton Downey episode.
Oh
If you remember that with Dennis Carluzzo
yeah, yeah, yep.
and Altamori, and oh gosh, what a rib!
I just think that Teddy Long got bullied a bit, which is Ole's nature, of course, and that's neither
Probably.
here nor there. But I feel like that's where a lot of that's coming from, the racist stuff. And I was just talking to Kevin Sullivan about it earlier. I asked him if he was, and he said he hated everyone equally. He just hated everyone.
Yeah, I would see that more so than being just one certain person or one certain people.
Right.
I
He
could
just seemed
see
like
it.
an asshole to everybody.
Sure, I get that.
Hey, I tried to call him for an autograph signing. God, 7 years ago, Arn hooked me up and said, "This is what's going to happen. He's going to tell you to f off. Just be prepared." And he did. Arn nailed it right on that.
Yeah.
Not
See,
interested. F off. Yeah.
yeah, that'll learn you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Ollie, would you like to come around and hang out with some fans and just sign some autographs?
Nope. F
Yeah.
off.
No, not a
Uh,
chance.
from James, he says, "Your future is unknown, so when it becomes known, it lies behind you."
Oh.
Hmm.
Hmm. Hmm.
Interesting.
Well,
Um, Bo says, "Oh yeah, Cheryl said her and Lemuel will be in Iowa for your big day." What the heck is in Iowa? Oh, the Hall of Fame, the Thames Hall of Fame.
yeah, but I'm not sure who Cheryl is.
And I don't know who Lemuel is.
Well, he's this other fellow you see standing at the bus stop next to Gordon,
Oh,
next to Goober.
but how come he won't answer the future behind you? I think James answered it, but Bo wouldn't answer that. Interesting.
Well, answer the question you asked.
Come on, Bo. Matthew wants to know: Did you ever go to any places in Philly? I live in Philly.
I went to a few places in Philly, but it's been a long time. Been a long time ago. Went to what's the famous cheesesteak?
Geno's or maybe Pat's?
Pat's. I think we went to Pat's. Yeah.
A buddy of mine lives in Philly. He said Pat's is overrated, and that he was naming other places. But Pat's I've had, I like. Geno's I've had, I liked, and I like Tony Luke's. Actually, was my favorite.
Tony Luke's was the one. That's the famous one, the real famous one. I think that's where we went. Tony Luke's. So
Great question here. Does Dr. Tom show young trainees videos of old times to teach them how to be heels? Thanks.
yes, yes, we do. We watched some promos of Rick Rude tonight. We talked about Rick Rude tonight. We watched Terry Funk and Harley Race. But I'm trying to pull up some recent matches from the '80s and the '90s instead of the same old '70s and you know matches that I know would work, but we can't make them work today. We just got to. I They have the same element I'm trying to explain, and I want them to do it, but I want them to do it in an updated style, and it's hard to explain unless you can talk about it.
When you look at great heels, Terry Funk, who obviously transitioned very well into the '80s as well, he showed them some Terry Funk stuff.
Yes, yes, we did. You know who's also a great uh, psychologist was Mankind, Mick
Cool.
Foley,
Yes.
who knew how to cut a promo, tell a story, and then tell a story in the ring too with his actions. So you know, um, those are people that you can learn from, watch, study, because at the end of the day, uh, you can come back to the back and just turn it off, or you can't. And I think the ones who can't turn it off are the ones who are going to make it. The ones who just have to have that constant electrical charge going through them the whole time, that buzz, that feeling of what's next, what's next. I got to come up with something better. Um, and that's what I think a lot of guys. I see some guys doing it today on the independents. Then I see some guys not really putting everything into it. So, and I think you can use examples on video and as well as like more recent examples too, because you got to keep up with what's going on out there. But yeah, we look at some of the old timers and old matches to look at the body type, the body language, and the storytelling.
Dr. Tom, you could show them videos of Andy Kaufman. He got a lot of heat.
We've done that too. Andy Kaufman was another one we did. We showed the angle with Lawler, we showed the angle that he sent all the stuff to Memphis with, and then we watched the Letterman stuff and explained that people, wrestling promoters, wrestlers actually bought into it who who didn't know. I mean, Vern Gagne, who we were talking about earlier, um, sent Lawler a telegram saying how proud he was of him taking care of Andy Kaufman. Bill Watts called Jerry Jarrett and told Jerry Jarrett how proud he was. Paul Bosch wanted to book Jerry Lawler in Houston for what he did to Andy Kaufman. So, yeah, those people are far and few between in the business these days. I don't want to say they don't exist because I'm sure they do. They just got to find their way out to pop up, sprout up. But you got to find it somewhere.
Bobby Heenan once said, a lot of men don't know the business and they're dumb and they'll never draw money.
True. Very true.
A friend of mine the other day told me, he goes, I can't believe it. I just realized that Bobby Heenan and Hulk were really good friends. And I said, hello, of course. That's why Heenan was basically putting him over all the time, even though ripping him apart. That was a part of the spiel. He's the guy, this is 40 years later. The guy's just getting it now. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I believe it. I do believe it.
One of those things where Heenan did a lot. Everybody hated Heenan. So constantly putting the Hulkster down. for sure.
Well, that was just good.
What do you think, just encompassing Ole Anderson, what do you think his legacy is? And what do you think about Virgil? What do you think his legacy is? Very,
I
very
think
different.
I think yeah, but I think Ole should be remembered as a great booker, a great worker, guy who revolutionized the business, part of one of the most famous factions of all time, if not the most famous faction of all time.
Yep.
Who he was the inspiration for DX, the Click. I mean, Ole
NWO.
was NWO, yeah. So she should be known and have a legacy for being that driving force and being a smart booker and being able to manage two hot territories like Georgia and the Carolinas. Virgil, I think he should be remembered as somebody who made the most out of what he had and what he was given, and he man, he got to be at some of the greatest places in the world during that time, ringside during some of the biggest matches of all time.
Yep.
So yeah, he certainly
And then again in WCW too, when he was in the NWO, he got to do it all over again.
right. So good for him. I hope he had fun doing it.
Dr. Tom, where can we get the book?
The book, the curriculum. You can find that at jpwrestlingacademy.com and click on the training tab at the top and it'll tell you where to go. That's
The Rock.
jpwrestlingacademy at gmail.com. Yes, that is The Rock.
There's you and The Rock, baby. There he is. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Two Man Power Trip. You can follow Dr. Tom at Dr. Tom Prichard. Barbara wants to know autograph copy.
You can send me an email at jpwrestlingacademy at gmail.com and just ask for an autograph copy of the book and I'll tell you how to get it.
Dr.
Hey,
Tom.
Bob James, I thought we were going to get the answer to the question.
Yeah, we never got it. I guess that's going to be one that we'll have to figure out eventually what the hell he was talking about. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. See you right back here next week for We'll Take You to School with Dr. Tom Pritchard. We'll see you next week, folks.